Morning everybody, here we are on a Sunday morning. It's a bit chillier than yesterday, where we have come, as you can see in the background behind me, the old King's Head in Ivinghoe, where Lynn used to work many years ago. Now we've come here today to do a few ghost stories, Lynn, on
right.
where you used to work. When did you used to work here?
Early 80s, early 1980s.
Early 1980s.
Yeah. For about 4 or 5 years.
So we're going to do a little bit of filming here, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's unrecognisable to the place that you used to work here now. It's a bit of a shame, isn't it?
It is a shame because it was a beautiful old building that was sort of covered in ivy. I did think at one time it was possibly a listed building, but apparently not, and it's now a children's day nursery.
No, apparently it is a listed building.
It is.
It's a Grade 2 listed building, but presumably that doesn't count to ripping down the ivy and that and everything.
No.
Which is a shame because it doesn't look at it. I'll put a picture up of what it used to look like in its heyday.
Totally
but we're going to go and I'm going to do some filming. Lynn's going to tell the story of some of the ghostly things that happened at the King's Head when she worked there. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye. Well, I do have to say that I felt a little bit saddened this morning when I saw the King's Head for the first time after quite a few years, because all the character seemed to have gone out of it with the removal of the ivory. But I can understand that now it's a children's day nursery, it perhaps needs to be a little bit less characterful, perhaps we should say. Because I worked at the King's Head in the early 80s for about 7 years. Had lots of sort of spooky experiences then, perhaps you recall them, when I was there. One of the most memorable, I think, was in the bar. I used to walk through the bar every morning and got the sense of serving wenches, serving jugs of ale to men who were sitting there drinking and laughing and talking. I used to hear the clanking of tankards where the serving wenches would be serving the men jugs of ale. I always saw this in my mind's eye, not in reality. They were always sitting at the same table. The most spooky remembrance of mine from the King's Head was a room down the passage over the archway, where at one time the horses and carriages would come through for the horses to be stabled at the rear of the building. That room was always cold and had a really heavy feel to it. New staff members stayed there, so I'd have to go up and prepare the room. But I was so scared that I had to prop the door open with a heavy chair when I worked in there. When I was speaking to my mother-in-law, who had the job before me, she told me the story of room 13, that in the war, the King's Head was commandeered by the army, and the son of the house, who was about 11 or 12 at the time, loved to go on manoeuvres with the soldiers on Ivinghoe Beacon. And whilst there one day, he was run over by an armoured vehicle. He was taken back to the King's Head to his bedroom. A doctor was called, but his injuries were too serious, and he died, and his room was room 13.
So now we are driving down to a row of cottages, to a specific cottage which I am not going to reveal which one it is, because the people won't know who live there now, that they might have a haunting, about where Lynn used to work in the past. And she's going to tell you a story when we get parked up of what happened at one of these cottages.
For about 2 years, around about 1981 to 82, I worked, as Lyndon said, in a cottage for a gentleman who worked in London. I used to clean his cottage, so I was always there on my own. That was a very, very spooky place. It had originally been 2 cottages, and he'd had them knocked into one. The first time I went upstairs, I felt that somebody else was on the landing with me, and the feeling I got was nearly always on the landing, going through to the bathroom, and leading on from the bathroom were stairs going down from the second cottage then, shall we say, and it went down into the dining room of the first cottage, which was the bigger cottage. They'd done a very good job on the renovation and making the two cottages into one, but there was a very, very chilling feeling on the stairs. I could describe to you a lady that I saw several times, but again, I didn't see her in reality. All this was in my mind's eye, but so clear was she that I could describe to you the clothes that she was wearing. She was always watching me. I felt other spirits or ghosts in there as well. Couldn't describe them in such great detail, but they were always watching me. The whole cottage always felt very cold and very scary. In fact, I was so scared that I asked my sister if she would come and help me with the job there. It would take us half the time and we would have half the money each. That's how worried I was. Whilst I was on maternity leave for a few weeks, in a few weeks' time, my sister had to go and do the cleaning job at the cottage on her own. The second week she was there, she was feeling very, very uncomfortable, very scared, massive feeling of being watched. She'd left the hoover in the room, turned round, saw the hoover, thought it was the person watching her, was so scared that she ran out, just locking the door behind her, not putting anything away. I wrote to the gentleman that I was working for and I explained that now I had a new baby, I wouldn't be able to come back and carry on cleaning there. It was a very scary time. When I spoke to a friend who'd recommended me for the job, she'd done the job before me, she asked me, "Have you seen her yet?" And that said it all for me, because that's exactly how I felt. There was a female presence in that house and it wasn't a very nice one.
Well, thank you very much, Lynn. What do you all think of that? That's Lynn with her haunted tales of her work time at Ivinghoe. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe. Bye for now.